Welcome to the Back Nine Podcast, special edition as we start season 13. Josh, we are going to do something that we only really do on the 19th hole in Making the Turn, and that is a host-only show. That means we won't have a guest today. The reason for that is Father's Day is coming up, and we want to talk about being dads, and we have some questions to ask each other. We're kind of going to interview each other and have some fun. But before we get to that, let's talk about this first time in the studio in a while. So we have a lot going on.
Yeah.
A lot going on. Graduations.
All that. And nice to see you, brother.
See you too.
And nice to see Roy and Janine. So you, in the interim, a couple of things have happened. There's been some travel. There's been some graduations. We have the NFL schedule. Let's start there.
Yes.
Because last time we were in the studio, it was going to come out like 2 or 3 days later. We now know that your Buffalo Bills are hosting my Chicago Bears in late December 19th, which actually works out nicely.
Works out nicely for me because I don't have to make a separate trip. I'll just make that part of my Christmas trip up there, my holiday trip. So that's, it works out very, very nicely for both of us, I think. And the other thing I think it does is those tickets they're the most expensive ticket right now. I know we have some connections and we're going to try to get in there, but I think by then it's December, it's right before Christmas. If you're going to pick a game where tickets might be the most accessible,
it's that one.
It's that one. Yeah. It's that pre-Christmas game at home and it's a Saturday night.
Is it a night game? I know it's Saturday.
It's a Saturday night.
Okay.
I think it's right now.
Yeah.
So,
I think you'll be able to do that. And the week before, the Bears play in Miami the week before. We'll go to that one. We definitely have access to that. I don't know if you want to go to that one, and we'll try to go see the Bills in Miami also. Lots of opportunities.
After the new year.
And that's right. So it's like 3 times in 4 weeks. By the way,
the Bills have 8 home games. That's the 9th. By the time they play that game in January, Miami may not have even won a game by then. Because they're trying. Obviously, they have $250 million in dead cap space. They're trying to tank this year. So
they're going to win a game.
They're going to win a game. But I'm saying, who's going to want to be going to that game as a Dolphins fan at that point?
Bills fans.
It's going to be entirely full of Bills fans. It usually is, but it's going to be even more so.
Let's move on from that because our audience is those that care about the Bills and the Bears are limited. But they may care about your trip. You hadn't been to the islands.
My God. It will never happen again. I'm going to say this right now. I went a full calendar year without going to my house in St. John, and a lot of circumstances. It's rented a lot, which is great, but also, just life. A lot of things going on. So we didn't get back. But once I got back there, I had just a great week right around Memorial Day, and had some people that hadn't been there. It's always nice to introduce it to new people that haven't seen it. It's the first time I've been there since my daughter got engaged to Ben. And, they kind of are the mayors of that island now in some respects.
They're royalty.
With everybody they know.
It's a royal wedding.
And how I literally introduced myself as Maddie's dad on that island.
Sure.
It's so small.
Well, and tell the story about what happened with you and Beck and the wedding venue.
Oh, my gosh. Such a cool story. So we went back to Cinnamon Bay, which is where we got married. Now, our wedding, if you've listened to this show, was under very difficult circumstances. We saw the kind of rain we haven't seen before or since, right during the time when the ceremony was supposed to go on. And usually the showers pass, and you can do whatever you were going to do. These were not passing. They were literally parked.
This was 3 hours of steady showers.
Yeah, really crazy, like I've never seen before. So we made an adjustment at Cinnamon Bay to move our wedding off the beach and into this little gazebo area where there was a bar.
It's a shelter.
It's shelter, camp, where the camp ground people go to this bar and they can hang out. And
it's open. It's open. Right, it's got a roof.
It's open on the sides, but a roof over the top. So we created a really cool scramble together, chairs set up under this area where it looked kind of almost like a little chapel kind of area with rain coming down. It ended up being beautiful. But we go back.
And then the rain cleared after the ceremony. We took pictures on the beach.
Right. Yeah. But the story is we went back there, and this guy, Adonis, who helped us through the whole time, saw us, recognized us, and said, are you guys the ones that had the wedding here a while back?
Yeah, it was a year and a half ago.
Yeah. We said, yeah. He goes, I thought that was you. You got to hear something. We do this as the backup now because of you guys. We talk about you guys all the time. We do this area as the backup whenever there's rain at weddings. And we were like, oh my God. So he took a picture with the guy, and it was just super cool to know that that kind of traumatic thing, right? You're trying to scramble and redo a wedding plan, and that became the thing for them. They are now doing that for any time it rains.
Well,
They're creating this indoor gazebo area for weddings.
What a great legacy for you guys, because the ceremony, standing astride it was really nice. I mean, the things
cool.
you guys said to each other and the amount of love that was there the whole weekend and that day and night in particular, and to know that that's getting passed on and that people can have that kind of a special experience even when the weather is dictating otherwise, I think that's unbelievably cool.
Well, yeah, and if you want to go a little deeper, it was like my youngest daughter said, it's like your relationship, right? You guys just whatever bumps in the road you have, you guys just get through them, right? Any kind of things like that. So I think it's kind of a metaphor for people. If it does happen to you, that's now set. The stage is set for it not to be a disaster, right? I know you dreamt about having your beach wedding, but it's not. It's beautiful back there, and we adapted.
Yeah, you did. You did.
And you've had graduations,
one after the
graduations upon graduation stories.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time we were here, we'd already had one. We've had two since, and one was my daughter, and we went up to Western New York, and she graduated. Didn't tell anybody that she was graduating magna cum laude, but did. And now she's got her teaching assignment set for the fall, which is really exciting. And to see her, and she's in her first non-campus apartment with a roommate, which is terrific. It's just neat to see them growing up, and I know that's a part of what we're going to talk about as we move into talking about Father's Day things. One of the other special things that happened. So my good friend Craig, Craig pretty well, reasonably well anyway. So his son got married a couple of weekends ago. And so he has twins. His oldest kids are twins, and the girl is married, and his son got married. And he's got a younger one too, a younger daughter. So he was just telling the story that the morning of the wedding, he and his son went for a quick 30-minute coffee, and he had prepared all these things to say, advice to a young man becoming a husband for the first time. And I won't share that. That's Craig's for his son. But he did share that his son then told him, spent about 5 minutes talking about what a great influence he was as a father. And as always, there's always conflict. It's at points in life, and especially when there's been divorce. And I think they've always had a very good and solid relationship. But Craig tells the story that he, loved it, hugged. He walked back to the hotel, and as soon as he got back to the hotel room, he just floods of tears just because it meant so much. And I just think what a great goal that must be. I love that he's reached that. I see you reaching it, as Maddie's getting married, just to be able to have your kids affirm for you. You did a lot of really good things for them, and it helped them get to this moment where they can start to see themselves in those roles too. So
it's a great jumping off point for our Q&A. So I guess I'll get started with our first question to you.
Sure.
What's the one thing that raising daughters taught you about yourself that raising a son would not have?
Well, I don't know how I would have raised a son. I think for me, there's so much shorthand with a son, or I think there was a lot for me and my dad that you can over a ball game, or talking about sports or music or UFC or anime if that's your thing, that can take the place of other kinds of conversation. Like I think about, do you remember in the movie City Slickers? One of the characters is talking about how he could always talk to his dad, no matter what was going on. They could always gather around baseball. With daughters, especially for my daughters who are not into sports, you don't have that same kind of sports or any of those kind of safety valves. So I do think, and it's especially so as they've become older, to recognize that I have to have patience, and I have to listen to them, and I may have to get into some uncomfortable places, not difficult places, but things that are not necessarily second nature to me, to be able to have that kind of connection and meet them on their terms rather than assuming they're going to be on mine. How about yours?
That's really good. It's interesting. I thought about this question, and I think that one of the keys was I didn't make that big of a difference between raising a son and raising a daughter. What I mean by that is there were certain values that are true to both. There are certain discipline things that are true to both, and I kind of think that my girl's resiliency and toughness is because their mom and I, didn't treat them. Obviously, we treated them like princesses and little girls when the time was right. But when the push came to shove, I think they would both tell you that you guys taught us to be tough and resilient and survive, bumps in the road. So I think that's probably the main thing. I think it definitely taught me how to be better with girls and women that I might have if I just had sons. I've seen some guys with just sons and they don't know how to deal with young women, or it definitely taught me how to deal with young women and made me a better, more sensitive person to those kinds of things that you run into. But overall, I think you raise kids as kids, not by sex. So that's what I would say from my perspective.
Do you think divorce changed how you are with your daughters or to your daughters?
Well, I think it drew us closer. I think we were already close, but I think it really drew us closer. I feel like for different things, both parents are a resource, but I definitely am at certain times, and it just drew us closer, particularly with my older one first, and now with my younger one. It's all about a maturity thing and the time in their life. But I think because you spend after a divorce, you spend so much more one-on-one time with them without the other parent that you can't help but become a little bit closer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How about you on that one?
Well, circumstances were a little different, right? I mean, my kids were a little younger than yours when I got divorced compared to you, and they were distant, right? So they were 1,200 miles away. And so to your point about that time being intentional about it because it was limited, when we had Dan Plesac on a couple of seasons ago, and he said, when he was living away, he couldn't just call his daughters up on a Thursday night and say, "What are you doing for dinner? Let me take you out." I couldn't do that either. Mm-hmm. And I had, my ex has a strong personality. It's both a strength and a weakness. And it became harder for me to have, because I didn't have day-to-day conversations with my kids. The narrative kind of shifted. In some ways, that was positive. They weren't exposed in many ways to back and forth arguing to the extent that there would have been any. Mm-hmm. We didn't have all that much. But they didn't have to see that on a regular basis if there or that struggle. But I don't know, and I've talked about this here before, I don't know how much my side of things got minimized. And in some ways that helped me because it just let me focus on being positive, showing up for them and being there for them for whatever they've needed. So I do think there have been times over the 8 or 9 years since we've been divorced that were tricky, but I do think we're closer now because of it. And they appreciate that. I hope they appreciate. I feel like they appreciate. They make me feel like they appreciate that I've been there and shown up for them for different things.
Did you have a conversation over the years, whether not recently or a long time ago, that sort of terrified you to have that conversation with your girls? Was there any?
Specifically to divorce or
anything,
or broadly?
Specifically broadly, any conversation?
That's a really good question. I guess the short answer is no. I mean, I certainly dreaded telling them that we were getting divorced. That was not going to be easy. And it wasn't. There have been a couple of times where we had, or my ex and I had some conflicts where I thought it was tricky to have the conversation about because I knew it was the whole idea of the conflict itself bothered them, especially my younger daughter. She's very conflict averse, and she's a total empath, which I love about her. But having that conversation with her to say, hey, this is what's happening. I'm not casting any aspersions about what your mom is thinking or feeling, but this is my presentation and this is where we are. And it's going to be a little bumpy for a little while. And she didn't want the bumpiness, which I totally get. So that was a conversation.
Yeah.
But not otherwise. Otherwise, I think it's just stuff you lean into as a dad as they become young women, and you try to help them see what they should be concerned about, what they should watch for, what are red flags in their relationships with friends and with men or boys, and also talking about the positives and making them see that those kinds of relationships are also excellent when they work.
Yeah, I mean,
how about you?
Well, for me, it's not close. The terrified was telling the kids that we were getting divorced. Like there'll never be a moment that terrifies me with my kids more than that moment. And how brutal that was. Especially because they're not expecting it a lot of the time. In our case, that was the case. So I think that's it. I mean, I don't think terrified. I think with you. I think I leaned in. I'm sure there was some uncomfortable moments, but scared is not something I worry about. I'm not like adverse to conflict, so if we have to have a hard conversation, I'm pretty good at that. Not everybody is, but yeah, there's no question that not to just belabor it, but having that divorce conversation is brutal.
Do you think at the time or at any time that I think I have two questions here. One is, did they take sides at any point or on any issues? And now on the other side of it, how do you think they see you?
I think my kids did a pretty good job of not taking sides. I think that, it's normal for them to, want to protect their mom a little bit,
yes,
in certain situations. So I think there was a little bit of that. But our circumstances also led to my girls leaning in and making sure that I was okay too. It kind of flips. They were older, so I was fortunate in that. Like over the years, Lily was turning 16 and Maddie was 19. So I think this question, if you're listening to this and wondering how this affects you, I think it affects me a lot different because my kids were older and I could actually kind of lean on them. Not that I put pressure on them or made their lives uncomfortable, but I think that there was this underlying subtext. Is dad okay? Is he going to be okay on the other side of this? And at times the answer was maybe no, but at least we got to where we are now. Yeah. So I think that's what it is. I think it's completely different if the kids are younger. That's when we talk about having other support. But yeah, I think it's natural that they would take sides a little bit, but I don't think it was very strong.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Well, again, the distance was a huge factor here. The divorce was sad. It was sad for everybody. And they were seeing their mom's sadness on a daily basis and not mine. And, when we would talk, which was, 3 times a week or twice a week, or when we would visit, I always put on a very brave face. But I can tell you, at first, when I was still living in a very small apartment, I didn't have room for both of them. They would come down one at a time, and taking them to the airport when they were leaving was, several times I sat in the Southwest terminal after they got on the plane and just sat in a corner and cried for 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. And, one of the Delta people or the Southwest people, came up to me and said, "Are you okay?" I mean, yeah. I just need the moment, right? But I didn't show that to them. Right. So I don't think they could help but feel more empathy towards their mom because of that. But I do think now, and I don't know that they ever stopped to think, is dad going to be okay? I think they just assumed I would be, or that I should be.
Yeah, I think that's the difference. I think, let me jump in here.
Yeah, please do.
I think we're right. I see that got you a little bit.
It did, of course.
But of course, my kids did see my brokenness at times. I did my best to hide it, but there was no masking how broken I was early on.
Sure.
There was no, we talked about on the show, like kind of what a mess I was for a while. So I think in that case, that they saw that's why they picked me up at times. At times I leaned on them to help pick me up. So that's tough for you. That's tough that you were isolated and had to push that down and couldn't have that support, when you needed it.
Well, the real sadness was missing them too, mm-hmm. right? I mean, missing that day-to-day interaction. And I should make clear, I don't blame them for that at all. They didn't see it. They didn't know it. I didn't share it. I'm not at all. I do think, on the other hand, they do see how different I am many years later because I've really worked at it. And I don't know. I think they respect it. I think they appreciate who I am, and I think they can access that in a way. My sense from afar is that their mom has not changed in the same way or to the degree that I have. They've seen her evolution on a daily basis. It's almost like the frog that you put in the pot that doesn't know that it's cooking, right? Whereas with me, they see it in increments, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and it's a little bit foreign to them. And I do think that they're able to say, I see where he's gone, and I can have a good relationship with that guy.
Yep. Well, now let's move on to the after chapter. You stepped into a relationship with a widow, 3 kids, awesome girl, woman, girl.
Yeah.
So I just said it because we're talking about kids. Awesome woman. But that's not easy, man. That's like you had to make some decisions along the way on for her, and you had to take, how are we going to be able to navigate this as a serious relationship? It's one thing to just have a relationship. It's another thing to do the full on serious relationship. So take us through that and what it's meant to you.
Yeah. So a couple of points. Again, kids are a little older, right? One, as of this moment, one is out of college, one is in college, and one is entering college. So that helped, right? When I started interacting with them, the youngest was 14. So that's one part of it. And Marty has done a great job of articulating when she's needed space, to honor her late husband. And the kids have been very accepting of me too. So I think what has been great about it is that I think from the very beginning, I was able to express to them, look, I'm not here to replace your dad. And they were old enough that they didn't need a dad in that way, but I am here to be a part of your family. And so we've created lots of that space. I have made sure that there's space to honor him and recognize him, on his birthday and on the date that he passed. And when I remember the first time I went out with Marty, they lived in California for a little while, in Southern California. And I went out and met a whole bunch of her friends. And the family that was hosting said, let's say a moment for him as we're sitting around the dinner table. And a couple of the friends came up to me and said, was that okay? And Marty said, I didn't know he was going to do that. Are you? I said, absolutely. Of course. That's how you guys were here. So yeah, that we have to have space to honor him. And I think that has, and in the moments where there has been parenting needed, I've offered some things, but I've always let Marty lead it because she's the parent.
Right.
And then to be available if they have questions for me. Your situation is really different in that you have a second wife who came in without kids. So, and she knew them when they were little, right, from the moment they were born, because you knew her previously. But now that you guys have been at this, the relationship is what, 5+ years, almost 6. The marriage is 1.5 years. Has it affected your relationship with Maddie and Lily in any way, positively or negatively? And how have you built this new family structure?
So I think this is a good takeaway for our audience to hear this. And that is this: when you get a divorce, it's shocking to the kids, but their only knowledge of what a healthy relationship is, healthy or not healthy, or relationship, is what their parents were, right? And in my case, we had a relatively healthy relationship until the end, right? We weren't like 10 years of fighting. We should have been divorced when the kids were little. It wasn't like that. Having said that, there were some unhealthy things in that relationship. So I think what my kids are seeing now is, and this is why the second relationship coming out of a divorce, if it's done right and healthy, you're actually potentially a better example for the kids than you were when you were married. So I think what my kids are seeing, and I've even heard some rumblings of this from one of them, is that they love the dynamic of Rebecca and me. They love what they see. They love how much fun we have together. They love how we treat each other, the respect, all of the things. This is what I think I'm saying. I don't want to speak for them. I'm speaking for myself, which is, if I can be that example in this relationship for them, it's just as good, if not more powerful, than when I was in my marriage. And I think that that's kind of universal. I think there's a lot of families out there. There's a lot of people out there right now that are in second relationships, maybe married, maybe not, but use that relationship to model what a good relationship looks like for your kids. Because as I see Maddie embarking on getting married, you know, she's going to take the things that my ex and I did well and hopefully incorporate those and put keep in mind all the things we didn't do right. But then now she has another relationship to look at and say, okay, there's some good things about that I want to model myself after and model my relationship after. So I think that's the best thing you can do in a situation like this. And yes, it certainly has helped in some respects that Rebecca doesn't have kids, but as I said before, she has 180 kids. She's a virtual teacher and has the best manner with those kids that you could patience. She's all the things that the best parents could possibly have in her repertoire. So she didn't need to have kids to show that, to demonstrate what she is as a human, because what she does with those students is mind blowing. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, she's a fabulous human, and I think it's interesting, by the way, that you and I both have, you know, a marriage, a long-term relationship with people who are in industries in which care and compassion is a huge part of it. I want to go back to something you said, talking about being a healthy model in a second marriage. We've seen lots of second marriages that are equally unhealthy as the first one, or maybe even worse. I commend you and Beck for having built that healthy model. I think that's also something that I would want to point out to our audience is if you get into a second long-term relationship or marriage that is unhealthy, the inverse can be true, right? That you've shown them how healthy looks. If you get in an unhealthy relationship, you're going to show your kids more examples of unhealthiness. So again, I commend you for making that a part of your intention to provide an example, especially as you've got a daughter who is now getting married and can start to consider, well, what questions do I want to ask of my fiance or of my long-term partner before we get engaged that we know could bubble up in relationship? And what do we see as healthy models and what do we see as unhealthy ones?
Absolutely. So Josh, was there a moment when you shifted from these are my kids to like a peer, or we're more like equals now? Has there been a moment like that? I know I've talked about this and I'll talk about it again, but I'll let you go first on this one. Was there a moment?
I think we're doing it now.
Yeah.
You know, now what's interesting about the timing of this is, you know, now all of our kids, our 4 kids, have finished their degrees and are officially into young adulthood. We each have one that's still getting a second degree, but they're adults. They're on, to some degree, they're on their own. I think this is kind of the time for me where that's happening. Interestingly, when they were visiting in January, we did kind of an old thing. We went to a theme park. We went to the new Universal Park, which was terrific. And I still felt myself falling into the old, I'm leading, let's do this. And that was fairly early in the trip. And then later in the trip, I kind of backed away from it and said, let you guys lead. What do you guys want to do? We've done that more often. And so I think that, you know, when we go out to dinner, I'm still paying. But
that goes for a long time.
That goes for everything, right?
It goes for a long time
forever.
as the dad.
But yeah, we start to have conversations that are more about adult topics, like how do you live your life? What is work-life balance? What are you looking for in a relationship? All those kinds of, how do you manage those things? How about you?
I think that I don't know if there was one epiphany, but it was really hard to make that transition. There was some conflict in going from, you know, Dad, I'm not your little girl anymore. You can't treat me like a little girl. You know, I'm an adult now. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly when that happened. It was during the college years. I mean, I know there's been a lot of bad things said about college, but both of my girls matured so much by going to college and going away to college. And, you know, as I've said 100 times, you never meet more people in your life than your first year of college. There'll never be a time when you're thrown into a fire like you are that first year. No matter how big your school is, hundreds, thousands of new people you meet immediately. And those skills that you have to do that and have to develop, catapults you into kid to adult in a short period of time. And you got to make a lot of your own decisions. Are you still oftentimes on the payroll and parents have demands for that? Absolutely. But for the most part, I think as they become adults are those college years. And there was that moment when I'm like, okay, now I kind of have to be, a tough friend, a little bit and enjoy my time more, not as a peer, but as somebody who respects them as a woman and doesn't treat them like a little girl.
Yeah. And that individuating process is natural. It's not always, it's difficult for the kid. It's difficult for the parent, but we have to be able to, I've seen so many parents struggle with that moment and not release that their kid has grown up and engage them in adult conversations and to see them as adults and still see them. There's an old joke. I think it was Paul Reiser used to tell the joke that in Jewish families, the mother never stopped seeing their son as a 15-year-old boy.
Yeah.
And I love that line. It's hysterically funny in how he brings it up. But it's painful to go through it. And yet on the other side of it, it can lead the people who do it in a healthy way. It's so rewarding to be able to see your kids as adults and have those conversations. Yep. So now that they're at that point and you can look back at fatherhood and again, it doesn't end. You're obviously always going to be their dad, but being the father of little girls and then young women, if you had one moment to replay, or if you had to look back at different things, at the whole thing, what would you say what's your biggest broad takeaway? And is there a moment that you would try to redo?
Redo. Okay, so this is a redo. This is our mulligan, right?
This is a mulligan on father.
A mulligan on father. So I think I wish I had studied Stoicism a little sooner and not been so reactionary to certain things, particularly when they were in their early 20s. There was just this, whatever it is, the development of their frontal cortex and the angst and the anxiety. And I was a little bit too confrontational at times when they were in their early 20s. I should have softened things and let things diffuse and got to the other side, been more patient. It wasn't that we didn't have good conversations and we didn't stay close, but there were moments when things got too heated that didn't have to.
Sure.
Unnecessarily, because I probably stoked it a little bit or was reactionary instead of just sort of taking the stoic things will work out the way they're supposed to work out. And I wish in a couple occasions I had done that and been a better representation of that and calmer and not reactionary. I think that's probably the biggest. Only a couple times I can think of that, but I didn't understand Stoicism. I didn't understand what it meant. Now that I understand that, I think I would have been better.
Do you have a specific one that you can talk about?
No, they're it's not worth talking about blow-ups. It was just big arguments, over little things. Yeah. Yep. Not many. How about you?
So I think I have a couple of broad takeaways, and then I have one specific one moment that I would love to redo. So broadly, reflecting what you're talking about with Stoicism, I feel like I did when we were first had kids. My ex did not work the first, 4 or 5 years, not really. And so I probably deferred a little too much in the domestic realm. And because I kind of took a back seat to that, I didn't show up enough or stand up for things that I felt were important when my ex and I disagreed about it. I was avoiding the confrontation of that. And I kind of, hey, I'm the guy who's out at work and I'm working, the third shift second shift because we were sportscasters. And I left a lot of that there. And I think if I had shown up earlier, not only would that have been better for the girls, it probably would have been better for the marriage. It would have been short-term conflict for long-term better connection. So that's one. Number two, broadly, I think I would have a much better appreciation of, you're not going to get all this right. You're going to have mistakes and you need to own those and lean into those. I mean, part of being a good parent is failing and recognizing it and owning that. And I don't know that I had the best models for that as a parent, but in any case, I didn't seize it on my own either. It's only been later and post-divorce that I've been able to kind of get my head, and as they've gotten older, to get my head around that. So yeah, I probably should have done that a little bit differently. But one specific one, when we moved to Florida, we'd been there maybe 6 months, and Charlotte, my older daughter, was in a swimming club, and she's 9 years old. And at the end of the session, they would always go to jump off the diving board. She'd always had proprioceptive issues as a little kid. Like when she'd climb the jungle gym as a kid, she'd have to think through where she was going to put her foot to lift herself up from the time she was little. And so getting on the diving board was kind of a similar challenge. And so the whole summer, she was trying to screw up the courage to jump off the diving board. Well, the next to last session before the final party thing, it's late it is 6:30 at night, and she did everything. She got all her toes all the way, and she just couldn't do it. And I remember in the car ride back home, I was so disappointed for her because she was working so hard, and I didn't know what to say to her. I just couldn't come up with the words, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Now but that car ride, I just felt the tension. It was so palpable, and I kept searching for what do I say, and I didn't know what to say. 3 days later, we're at the party, and I'm talking to some, woman that I've never met before, but we're just chatting, and I see her go off to the diving board, and I see her screw up her courage, and she does it. And I left the poor woman I was talking to was in mid-sentence, and I saw this happening. I bolted away from it to go see her do it, and when she jumped in, I went, yes! And I hope that stuck with her, that she still hears that, because I was so proud of her for doing it. But looking back at why couldn't I have done it, why wasn't I able to be there, in that 6 months, I had left sportscasting. I was still really struggling with certain aspects of where my finances were, trying to sell my house in Chicago and trying to make this transition into this new career. And I don't think I had enough presence for myself. As I look back on it, I just couldn't be there. I didn't have the reserve to be there for her. And I feel terrible about that. I don't know what I would have said that's any different, but I think I would like to think that I could have been there in the moment and didn't make her feel, and I don't know that I did make her feel like I was disappointed in her, but just to share, hey, we're going to come back and get this. We're going to do this. You can do this. I would love to replay that moment 17, 16 years later. That still sticks with me.
That's a big mulligan. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it sounds like you came full circle with the celebration when she did it. So
that helps. That helps us look back at that. All right. So I think one final question for you here, and I think this is a good one to close on about fatherhood. What does family mean to you now in your mid-50s that's different from when you started your family 30 years ago, or when we were entering our 30s and had little kids for the first time?
Boy, that's a great one and a deep one. Family is everything. My family is really close. And, I think for me, family is not just by name. It's not just by relationship because you have to be. Family is about, do you show up for that person? And do you show up for each other, right? That's what family is for me. Like that's, my kids and I show up for each other. Beck shows up for them. She's now part of the family, right? My parents have always shown up for me. That is family to me. They have always done that. I have other, cousins and everything that have always shown up for me. Family is also not about proximity. I think in this day and age, we're so stuck on, and I would love for us to go back to we all live in the same neighborhood and we all live in the same place. And that's what family is, because you can walk down the street and share cookies and all that. That's not reality anymore. The reality now is we all live apart in a lot of situations, and there's nothing wrong with that. So what do you have to do? You have to work a little harder at keeping those family connections. You have to use technology, which has never been better. I FaceTime my parents, if not every day, almost every other day, one or the other of them. And because I want to keep that connection with them. I don't know how much time I've got left with either of them. So hopefully a lot, but you never know. I think family connection is about, showing up for each other. I can't impress upon this audience enough how important it is to, if you're thinking about calling your kids, they're probably waiting for that call.
Yeah.
they're probably waiting for you to call. So make the call. Or you're thinking, my dad hasn't called me in a while. Call him. You know, he doesn't have to call. Maybe that's just not something that he wants to do, or he probably thinks you're busy. So make that call too. So I think these are the important things that I've always known, but divorce. And the other thing, Josh, is I've lived in a lot of different places, not like an army brat, but a lot of people live in one or two, you know, and they've been drastically different. You know, grew up in Massachusetts, lived in upstate New York, moved to California, now live in Florida. I mean, you really get to know who your family is and who your friends are that are going to show up for you, because a lot of times you try to show up for them and they don't reciprocate. And that's kind of when you know the answer, right? Like that's where you are with it. So.
Often. And I think, first of all, I love what you just said. I think all of that's spot on. If we're healthy, if we know where we are and we're comfortable with who we are, if somebody disappears for a little while, but then they come back and say, hey, I'd like to get back. There's nothing wrong with it. I love everything you said there. And I think what I would add, going off the phone calls and the reaching out, sometimes they're not going to pick up. And that's okay. I think our kids still want to know that as long as we're not being pests, as long as we're not demanding about it, that they know that we're thinking of them. And they know that we love them and we're reaching out to them and we're not putting pressure on them. I think they want to
do it with intention.
With intention,
don't do it because it's a check mark box or I have to make this call. Do it with intention.
Hey, I was thinking about you. Yeah. For sure. This supporting what you're saying. The other side of it is we've seen unhealthy people feel they're entitled to a relationship simply because they're blood, they're siblings, they're their parents, their kids, whatever. It's work. If you want to be in a relationship, it's work. You have to, it's great work. It's fun. It should be fun and joyful work. It should be authentic work, but you don't get access just because we grew up in the same household or you did all these things for me when I was a little kid. As a dad, I feel like I'm supposed to do those things for my girls. And I do that because I love them, not because I'm expecting anything back. That's my motivation for wanting to have good relationships with my kids. And I try to say, I'm not entitled to it. If I want to have a relationship with my daughters, I have to be invested in their lives. I have to be interested in them. I have to be interested in what they're doing. And that might mean meeting them someplace that's not natural for me. Okay. The priority for me is to have a healthy relationship with my daughter, whoever they are and whatever experiences they're having. Not where I expect them to be, not what my preconceived notion of who they were going to be is. Where are they now? How can I help them get to where they want to go? That to me is how I looked at it. And I don't know that I did that. I think I had an expectation that things would flow easily and it would just be natural. It isn't that way. It takes effort. Do you have any parting words for our audience as we talk about Father's Day?
Yeah, happy Father's Day for all you dads out there, whether you're a girl dad or you have sons.
Or you're about to become a dad maybe for the first time.
Become a dad. Enjoy the journey every step of the way, whether you have little ones or older kids at home. There's just an opportunity every step of the way to grow and learn. And we're just grateful that you get to listen to us and hang out with us. And hope this different kind of episode resonates. There were moments in here that I think you can take home and use.
I'll add one more thing too. We had our dads on a couple of years ago. It was a great episode. Loved that episode. Still one of my favorites. And I've had some challenging stuff with my dad over the last little bit, but I appreciate who he has been as a dad, especially when I was a little kid. All my life, even as we're facing something that's really challenging right now. And so thanks to my dad, I love the relationship you have with your dad.
Yeah, I do. I have a great relationship. Happy Father's Day to him. He's the best dad ever, and he turned 80 this year. So grateful for the ride that we've had and continue to have.
And one final thank you to my girls.
And my girls. Yeah. Thanks for making me a girl dad. See ya.